Hello and welcome to News in Depth here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Kato. News in Depth is TVP World's everyday weekday show where we get to look at the day's top stories. Today we're going to look at two developing stories, the developments following the Trump-Zelensky meeting at the White House last week before the US-Russia meeting in Budapest. Our second focus will be the significance of the newly opened Via Baltica motorway connecting Poland and Lithuania. To talk about all this, I am joined by TVP World's Europe editor, Marcin Zaborowski. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Marie. Good to be here.
So, the long-awaited meeting last Friday between Trump and Zelensky at the White House turned to be a bit of a 180-degree turning point. We were expecting more, but Trump appears to be telling Zelensky to agree to Putin's terms more than anything else. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, sadly, this is the way it looks. Like before the meeting, it looked like the President Donald Trump was sort of on the Ukrainian side. He was accepting and adopting the Ukrainian narrative on that on his defense, and there was talk of the transfer of very important weapons, Tomahawks, with a range of 1,500 kilometers, which means that Ukrainians will be able to strike deep into the Russian territory with those weapons. And that was stopped with the narrative that we had out of this meeting with Trump. Between Trump and Putin, basically what happened, instead of getting the weapons to defend itself, Ukraine just heard that it should give up on almost the entire territory that Russia has been occupying.
Before we go on, let's take a look at this soundbite from Trump.
Yeah, Friday you said you had a cordial meeting with President Zelensky. During that meeting, did you tell him he needed to cede all of the Donbass region to Russia?
No, we never discussed it. We think that what they should do is just stop at the lines where they are, the battle lines. You have a battle line right now. The rest is very tough to negotiate. If you're going to say, you take this, we take that, there's so many different permutations. So what I say is they should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
What do you think should happen with the Donbass region then?
Let it be cut the way it is. It's cut up right now. I think 78% of the land is already taken by Russia. You leave it the way it is right now. They can negotiate something later on down the line. But I said, cut and stop at the battle line, go home, stop fighting, stop killing people.
So classic Trump simplifying, oversimplifying everything, a classic moment with the journalists. We expected that meeting would end with a decision regarding the Tomahawks to be signed off for Ukraine. And we heard that Trump didn't actually really want to talk about it. We also heard that he didn't feel that Zelensky's attitude was right. There were sources saying that Zelensky wanted to escalate the war with these Tomahawks, and that Trump didn't feel that this was right so in the first place. So why did Trump actually offer them in the first place?
Well, I think that we need to go a little bit back and see how remarkable change of heart from Donald Trump has been. I mean, here, in this statement that you just played, he says Ukraine should give up on the entire Donbas region, on at least 78% that Russia has been occupying. So he's saying that point blank. Was about a few days back, maybe a week ago, he was saying Ukraine would recapture its entire territory. So within a week time, nothing really super remarkable on the front line happened, which justifies such a change of heart. It's not like that Ukraine has suddenly been losing more territory within this week. So clearly, the Russian narrative and the Russian negotiation tactic has been here effective. So meaning Vladimir Putin is treating his meeting with Donald Trump as a concession. And Donald Trump is packing it and is eating it all. He's saying it's so wonderful that Putin actually wants to meet with me, and in exchange I give him whatever he wants. That's how
So Putin constantly has the upper hand.
constantly has the upper hand. I don't understand why Trump is treating that meeting with Putin as a concession on the Russian part. It's not. Putin was at this point in time, he was desperate. The Russian economy is in worsening condition. The lines by the petrol stations, the living conditions of the Russian people are deteriorating, not rapidly and not in some kind of dramatic fashion, but they see the trend. The trend is negative, and there is a stalemate on the front line. There is a stalemate. I mean, the Russians have not gained anything, for the last few weeks, really. We are in the same line we were, and at the same time, there was a real prospect of Ukraine getting these weapons, which could have changed the dynamic. And then Putin is saying, "Oh, right. Well, I really want to meet now with President Trump." So they had a phone call, and in a phone call, they didn't even establish that they didn't have a physical meeting, but they established that they would meet. And that in itself was enough for President Trump to accept almost the entire Russian narrative and speak on Russian terms.
Right now, we hear that the US and Ukraine are preparing a contract for 25 Patriot systems. So things didn't succeed with the Tomahawks, but we hear that the Patriots are almost on their way. What do we make of this? Is this a success coming out of the meeting?
Well, it's I'm not entirely sure it's completely connected here. The talk about the contract for the 25 batteries has been in the making for some time. Even with the announcement of the contract, it's been clear that the delivery is going to take years. It's not going to be imminent. So actually, we are not talking here about something which is changing the frontline dynamic, but we're talking about strategic defense-industrial relationship between Ukraine and United States. So strategically, it is important, but for
now,
that equipment to actually make any difference, it will need to be deployed now. And the Americans are saying, we don't have it to send to you at this point in time. And even if we did, you are not the first in line. There are other countries which have been ahead of you. And by the way, one battery of Patriot missiles is $1 billion. So 25 is 25 billion, and by the prices of today.
Indeed. Zelensky didn't even get a proper press conference after the meeting. There were images of him standing, not even on the White House lawn, but almost across the road. So he wasn't even on the White House territory. He was just across the road with a bunch of journalists. A little spot for him. It was the visual and the suggestions suggested that he was almost. It wasn't even significant enough for him to be, treated with a press conference after the meeting. What's your takeaway from that?
Well, I think that the symbolics were meant to suggest that the United States is not allowing its territory and the territory of the White House to be used for President Zelensky to pronounce his point of view on that talk. So he had to do it. If he wanted to talk to the press, he had to do it on the street, not anywhere at the White House itself. Yeah, so I think the symbolic was very significant in this.
A massive deterioration from the beginning of the meeting when they were together with the president before the lunch. The press were crammed inside, and then afterwards he's just on the pavement.
Yeah, it suggests that they didn't, arrive to the same conclusion. But they didn't have the same thing to announce. There was not a joint statement. We knew it probably wouldn't be one, but we didn't know that President Zelensky would be relegated territorially outside of the perimeters of the White House. So clearly Trump said if he wants to speak to the press, let him, but I've got nothing to do with that, and I don't share that view. It's got nothing to do with me whatsoever.
Now, moving on to the next few days and weeks, we have this upcoming meeting in Budapest. And obviously, we know that Viktor Orban has a good relationship with President Trump and with Vladimir Putin, but obviously has a very negative reputation in the EU. What might come out of this meeting? Because we're entering a situation where almost, correct me if I'm wrong, Viktor Orban is almost entering the scene as a bit of a mediator, a bit of a host. What do you think of all this?
A host. I think it's the United States which successfully puts itself in a position of a mediator here. Which with the Russians knowing that President Trump would not necessarily represent the Ukrainian point of view. So Hungarians and Prime Minister Orban is a host, is giving his territory of a pro-Russian country to have a discussion on the future of Ukraine, probably without Ukraine present there. So the optics of that, the symbolics of that, again, is not great. It's like another Yalta conference in 1945, when the leaders of the three powers met in Crimea and decided the fate of this country. Its territory, its borders, its government, its political future. No Polish person was present there. It looks like that we may have a repetition of the same thing, and in some respects, if President Zelensky is not present at this meeting, there is some chance he might be. He just said yesterday that, he said today that if he's invited, he's coming. So if Zelensky is not there, it's difficult to see what kind of a big difference that meeting could have made.
Is there any chance that for the sake of diplomacy, good manners, that he might actually be invited last minute?
Well, I think if it's meant to be a transformational meeting, if it's meant to be the meeting that things actually get decided and then implemented, then he has to be there. If he isn't, then it will be another charming affair between Trump and Vladimir Putin. We already had that in Alaska with the red carpet, with the Trump applauding. We had now these charming phone calls. So, what's the purpose of meeting actually and confirming the known fact that Trump is under the influence of Putin?
What are your thoughts on Ukraine ceding the Donetsk region as a means of at least bringing in a ceasefire or stopping the killing, at least very briefly, as a means of moving forward with some peace negotiations?
Well, it's really difficult to say because, Trump is right when he says this senseless war has been going on for a long time. 3 years, people have been killing each other, and we should do whatever we can to stop it. But, and it's a big but, will you really stop the war by giving up on what the aggressor demands and wants? It's a little bit like it tastes of appeasement policy of the 1930s when Hitler wanted Austria, he got Austria. He wanted to remilitarize Rhineland, he militarized Rhineland. He wanted a bit of Czechoslovakia, he got a bit of Czechoslovakia. Then he had the entire Czechoslovakia. And only then the Brits and the French said, that's enough, we are declaring war. They declared war, they did nothing, but they declared war. But so you can see that appeasement is actually provoking further aggression. And if the Russians are rewarded here by their aggression, by actually keeping that part of the Ukrainian territory and perhaps also having some say on whether Ukraine can join NATO or not and so on, then there is a signal across the international community saying you can do whatever you want to. If you are strong enough, then the world will have to accept it.
Moving on to Via Baltica, tell us a little bit about the significance of this infrastructure project.
So we were just talking about Ukraine. Ukraine, a country which is neighboring NATO and is neighboring the European Union, and hopefully will join at least the European Union soon. And at the same time, we have a situation that other countries which are bordering Ukraine have to think about their own, security and defenses, and the possibility of being faced with another Russian threat. Because indeed, if Russia is successful in Ukraine, then it's probably just only a matter of time when it's going to be a threat to all of us here. And in order for us to have an effective defense, we must have a way of moving troops, moving heavy equipment across EU nations, especially close to the border with Ukraine and to the border with Russia. And unfortunately, between the Baltic states, Poland, Romania, other countries in this part of the world, the connections are imperfect. For example, the Russians have this, not the Russians, but the Baltic states, they have rail, which have a post-Soviet or Soviet-style gauge, yeah? So it's wider than the gauge here in Europe. And that means, in effect, that troops moving from Poland or from west to Lithuania, in case any of the Baltic states is attacked, are losing 24 hours on a border because of the need to, to basically transform the cargo into a different gauge. Yeah? So 24 hours, and we all know that Baltic states, the 24 hours for Baltic states could be to be or not to be, really. In existential terms.
So what happened today? What was opened by President Zaborowski and his Lithuanian counterpart? So
what has been opened today is not a rail, it's actually a road. It's an express highway between Poland and Kaunas, the former capital Lithuania, and in project what is proposed for the future is that it will continue until Tallinn. That means that you will reduce the time for the transport of heavy equipment by many hours between mainland NATO and the east flank of the alliance. So that really essentially strengthens our defenses and our ability to respond to the Russian threat.
So another step to being better connected and more secure in our region. Okay. Marcin Zaborowski, Europe editor, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you.
And that was News in Depth for today. Thank you so much for being with us, and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.